Next topic up for discussion is truck tension. So I brought two setups because I'm not gonna adjust mine, and I wanted to show you kind of the difference between a loose truck setup and a tight truck setup. Mine's kind of in the middle of that. I guess I would call it medium. So I've had it like this for a pretty long time. I used to ride looser. I tried really tight for a while, then I just settled in the middle. What do you know? So I don't know, I like it for several reasons. The main reason is because it just gives me control over presses really well, and it still allows me to carve and have a decent amount of stopping power. So one of the big differences between a tight truck setup and a really loose truck setup like this one, as you can see, the threads are almost at the last thread there at all. So this is almost too loose unless you're really light, or you really just like to carve. So some of the negatives of that is in a nose press, even a tail press. A tail press is still easier to do than a nose press with loose trucks, but a nose press with loose trucks is kind of wild. Like, it can just turn really fast and unpredictably, and going fast with loose trucks in a nose press is dangerous, I would say. But hey man, if you like to live on the edge, there you go. The other thing with loose trucks, you do benefit carving a bit. You can kind of carve a little more juicier, I would say. But the negative there is stopping power. So what I mean by that is the way that you have to lean in order to get your wheels to get a ton of pressure on that contact patch of the wheel. You have to lean really far, and sometimes it's almost like an awkward amount of leaning back to the point where you're gonna lift up your board potentially just because you maxed out the bushing and it's just locked there, so it's gonna lean up. Anyway, that's a potential issue, or you know, you're never gonna reach that point because it's too much of an awkward area to lean into, and you're just not gonna ever get enough contact with your wheel or pressure to slow you down enough. I mean, you'll still get some, but it's just gonna take forever. Whereas if it's medium or somewhat tight, basically you don't have to lean as far because it's not gonna give. You're instantly gonna get pressure and you're gonna have grip. It's gonna slow you down a lot faster. Also, if it's really tight, you may not be able to carve as wide or as juicy, as I said before, but I think it can still be done. It's just not, there's just a little bit more rigidness to it, obviously, because it's tighter. Those are pretty much the major differences between a tight and a loose and a medium truck setup. Some people also will do it kind of directional, where they put the back truck tighter or looser than the front truck. Usually it's tighter than the front truck, I think. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. Everyone's kind of different, but I think that would be more normal. Again, my setup is pretty omnidirectional there. I like it exactly the same. So whether it is exactly the same or not, I tried to make the front and the back truck exact same tension. It feels pretty close to me. One way to kind of figure that out, of course, it's pretty rudimentary, but you just stand on it, just basically try and fill it out. I'm like, that feels pretty much the same. Of course, you can always squeeze it with your hand, check both sides. Yep. Okay, I mean, I'm sure there's a more scientific way to figure out exactly what it is, but I don't know if it matters specifically that much. It is very important, but I don't know down to the exact, pound. So anyway, play with that, kind of take those things into consideration as far as stopping power, carving, some nose and tail presses. I guess the other thing too is it's a little easier to jump off your toes if it's not loose. So ollies and maybe even 360s and skate park stuff. I honestly don't like to ever change my setup regardless if I'm riding skate park or downhill. The only thing I will change sometimes is maybe the tension. If it's a really steep hill, I might tighten it up. That would be the only time I really change the tension of the trucks. So yeah, skate park, I keep it the same. And that pretty much covers it as far as I can think of right now. If there's any questions, leave them in the comments and I'll address them. Next, we will discuss center wheels. There's not much on that, but we will go over it quickly and kind of give you a rundown on what that's about. So stay tuned for the next one. Peace.